Happy Tuesday. Nancy here, ready to answer some questions. I have a couple of good ones today. If you're joining live, don't hesitate to drop your question in the chat if you have one, and I would love to get to it. Before I start with the questions, I'd like to just share an insight that I've gathered over the past couple of weeks. If you have seen if you're a subscriber, you will receive my free newsletters bi-weekly. I also have a newsletter on LinkedIn called Words at Work. I would encourage you to sort of sign up for either of those. The topic I talked about last time was values, and I gathered a couple of interesting insights since that newsletter went out from comments and people writing in. And I just wanted to share it with you today because I think it's valuable. Particularly one question, which was, what do I do if my values are not aligned with my company's values? Which is a multi-layered kind of question and a really valuable one for leaders or anybody in an organization to tap into. And this is what I'd like to share about that. So if you are working in a role as an individual contributor, working in a role, working with a team, and you're discovering that your values, your personal values, aren't really aligned with those of your company, it begs the question, did you know this going into the role? And if you did, then that's kind of a misalignment, right? What was your draw to the role and what made you decide to join that particular firm? If you weren't aware of the company's core values when you joined, then that begs a bigger question, right? Why not? So that sort of tips over into the leader bucket of, are your core values alive and well in the organization? Are they lived every day? Or are they more kind of, well, they're there, we wrote them down. We even have posters around the office space, but we don't really connect with them every day. And that is not meant to be a criticism as much as an awareness raising kind of exercise. Are we living our values? Do we even know what they mean? As leaders, does your leadership philosophy sort of intersect with those values? There's just so many pieces to it, and I don't want to go into a deep discussion today because it would take a lot of time, but I share this insight because it's something that's really valuable to think about at any level of an organization, but values are only valuable when they're lived. If you're losing touch with them, either as a leader in an HR department, as a team, as somebody working under a manager, and you never talk about them and you're not really sure what they are. I mention this just to sort of have a check-in and to encourage you to check yourself on that, to think about your own professional trajectory and how your firm's values or your own values as a business owner and a leader are embodied in your work. So with that, let's move on to our first question. What do I do if a client of mine complains about a sales rep that works for me and wants to actually change sales reps because they're unhappy with the relationship? Two things I want to highlight. First is, as the leader, I know we're always in that space of, well, whatever the customer wants and the customer is right, and we have to, it behooves us in a sales organization or any organization to listen to what the client wants. Yes. And if a client comes to you and says the sales rep relationship is not going well, the first thing to do as a leader is to dig in as to why. Meet with that client before you do anything to understand and get clarity around what's going wrong. Get specific. What happened? Under what circumstances? What was the complaint? What could have been done differently? Gather that intel. And then you probably know what I'll say now. Go to the rep and sit down with the rep and dig in. Make sure were they aware Were they aware of what was going south? Were they aware that the client was unhappy? Is there transparency? Do they have opportunities? Do they create opportunities to get this kind of feedback? So really dig in with the rep and find out what their experience has been, and then deliver the feedback that will be helpful, from what you heard as far as the client's experience. And then give the rep a chance to make it right. Map out an improvement program. Map out a roadmap. What are you going to do differently? And then lead, right? So guide the rep, not micromanage the rep, guide the rep, have a discussion about what's next, and then follow up with the client and reassure the client by telling them you will monitor this process. You'll check in with them every week. The rep will have their own schedule of check-ins. And so you're not trying to fix it for the rep. You're empowering the rep to repair whatever damage has been done. And you're also having a high touch experience with the client. So they know that you're there. They know that they can give you feedback as you go along, and then see what happens. It's not to say that it will necessarily be successful, but it is the first order of business rather than just knee jerking to, oh, okay, we'll get you a new rep. Because what does that really say? What messaging is that you're giving the client as a leader? Sure, it may be that, yes, I'm listening to you and delivering what you're asking for. It's also, I don't know, I'm not really standing behind my people, right? I'm not really giving them a chance to make it right. So that's kind of mixed messaging. So I think that's a valuable question. And I would love to hear if anybody's listening who has that experience and is going to put this kind of plan into place. I would love to get some intel on how that goes. Okay, next question. What do I do if one of my direct reports goes around me to my manager when they have a problem? So that's a rich communication issue, right? That's an opportunity for learning. What would be the first thing as a manager you would want to do? You'd want to find out why. And that can feel bad, right? To have someone that reports to you not come to you with an issue. What does that tell you, though? There's a lack of trust, perhaps. I heard a really interesting talk by organizational psychologist David Burkus recently, and he talked about trust. And it was interesting because, his work is evidence-based, as is mine. And he cited some research that was done about trust, the neuroscience of trust. We typically think about trust as something that's earned. It's a nice soundbite. It doesn't just come automatically. It has to be earned. His argument is, and the research shows, that in fact, it's not earned as much as it's reciprocated. So the studies have shown that we release a hormone called oxytocin when we're feeling trusted or we're feeling trust in another. And so, again, won't get into the neuroscience of it, but it is when someone feels that they are trusted, they release oxytocin. And for leaders in the leadership space, it starts with us, right? If you want to create a culture of trust, you want to create trust among your team, it has to start with you. And what is that? How does that look? Well, it starts with, delegation of decision-making, vulnerability, showing that, sharing setbacks, sharing failures, being open and transparent about what you struggle with as a leader automatically messages trust. And so this issue, to get back to the question, if a direct report is going around you, you have some work to do to find out why, and concurrently to build trust by first trusting, sitting down with this report, and not making them uncomfortable by highlighting the fact that they went around you, but to understand what your communication dynamic with that person is. And then you'll get to those issues. Well, they may say something like, well, I'm kind of afraid to be honest with you because I fear it might hurt our relationship or put my role at risk, or you'll take me off this project, or whatever the thing is. Getting them to be transparent and open up, and then being transparent back. Maybe, giving them a little more responsibility, or maybe emphasizing the responsibility that they already have that they are afraid to kind of lean into, because maybe there's a lack of psychological safety among the team. Maybe they feel there'll be retribution, not just from you, but from others on the team. There's so many angles that we could come at this from. But the first step is finding out why they're going around you. Then asking questions and actively listening to the answers. And that, communicates vulnerability, that communicates, intention for building a better flow of communication between you. So those are two. The other thing I would say about this is sometimes as leaders, we make clear what the team may be executing on as managers. What are the tasks, or what do we want the outcomes to be? But, there can be a deficit in communicating the intention behind it. What are your intentions? The intentions behind your actions as a manager. Again, that's a form of transparency. And it makes the team feel like they're all in it together. It's not just do this or do that, or this is the task and this is the project and this is the outcome we're looking for. This is the intention I have for this. This is why I'm asking you to do this. That it's subtle, and it can really make a big difference as far as communication flow and trust. And all of this you want to happen without it coming across as micromanaging, right? That you're not trying to get in the weeds on everything that everyone is doing. You want them to know that you're treetopping it, you're trusting them to go in and do the work. So that doesn't mean checking on every task, every day. It means this is what we're looking to accomplish. This is when we're looking to accomplish it by. So suffice it to say that if a direct report is going around you, there could be any number of impediments for them. And the first step is finding out what those impediments may be. So I don't have any live questions right now. This is probably going to be a rather short one today, but not really, because we don't dictate that it's going to be any specific amount of time. Last time it was about a half an hour, but I would encourage you to, anybody watching, to think about some communication challenges, maybe leadership skill issues, how you can better communicate up the ladder, or if you're a leader in a management role, how you can build communication with your team. Please subscribe to my free newsletter. You can find that on my website, nancyrberger.com. Follow me on social, and these live streams will be posted on my YouTube channel. So you can watch them anytime. All right, this is Nancy Berger signing off on this Tuesday, February 21st. I look forward to the next one in a couple weeks. Send in your questions. All right, be well. Bye.